Hey everybody, Cathy McLeish and I'm back again, and along with my series on alcoholism, which I'm trying to just raise awareness and help people to understand a little bit more what's going on in the mind of the alcoholic who is still drinking and the alcoholic who is sober, the difference between those two lives and the breakdown and the buildup of the person who is recovering and the changes that happen in his or her life. Anyway, I think I want to do a little side series here, and it is going to be my story. And I guess I feel like if I'm going to pull things from here and here and somewhere else, I need to maybe tell you what happened to me. And so I do have this opportunity or this ability now to look back and identify a few things as I go along. So it's not just going to be, this was when I was 6 and this is when I was 12 and when I was 18 and 21 was not a good year. So it's not going to be exactly like that. It's going to be kind of like, this is what was going on and this is what I've learned. This is what was going on and this is what I see now. So as I go through my story, it'll be several different parts, and I hope that the only thing that I would ask is that you try to maybe relate to the things that you see and can identify with, and not so much, oh, my childhood wasn't like that, or oh, she had it better than me, or there weren't that many kids in my family, that's weird. Anyways, I think that you will find, because I am an alcoholic, I don't drink anymore, haven't drank for 37 years, but I also married an alcoholic. And one of the big things was there was a big reason that I ended up with that partner. Now, people will say opposites attract. And that really wasn't it, and I don't really believe that. I believe that sometimes when we end up with somebody, it's because they somehow fill a void in our life. You know, whether it's codependency, whether it's addiction, whatever, it's like they kind of make us whole, even if it's in a really sick way, and they kind of balance us out. I also believe I went towards what I was comfortable with, the same kind of communication, the same kind of lifestyle. I ended up with somebody that somehow I felt okay in my own skin when I was with that person. So this is my story. Try to, if at all possible, see the similarities and not the differences, and see if it doesn't maybe answer a few questions, answer more questions than it raises. I don't know, but here we go. Okay, so I'm Cathy McLeish. I'm an alcoholic. When I was born, it was in the same town I live in now. So I was born 60, 80 miles away. But then when I was a year old, we moved to this town, and I've never left. Well, I don't know what that says about me. Anyways, I was the middle child. So you already might have some ideas about that. But I was the middle child in a family of 10. And those 10 kids were really quite close together. It was, 10 kids in 12 years. So we were, being in the middle, my oldest sibling was 6 years older than me. My youngest sibling was 6 years younger than me. And in the middle, there was a lot of good things about having a big family. And then there was a lot of things that I had to sort out later about having a big family. So the dynamics of family life have a lot to do with how I go off into my adulthood. And that is not a blame thing. And this is what I would say, and you can take it or leave it. I'm not a Bible thumper. I know very few scriptures in the Bible, but this one has always intrigued me. And it is in Proverbs 22:6. I only know that because I looked it up. And it says, train up a child the way they should go. When they're old, they won't divert from it. I'm ad-libbing. But what I understand that to be is I've gone back and I've looked at my life, and then I've looked at my children's lives, and I watch my children raise their children. Is I believe what was intended in parenting is that we would look at each child as an individual and not compare them to their siblings, not expect them to be better or worse, not an individual. And we would watch their strengths. They come to us with strengths. All the talents that my daughters have didn't come from me. Now, some of them I can see similarities, and others, there's some intellect going on that I don't know where it came from. But all of it didn't come from me. They came with a lot of gifts and talents. And if I, as a parent, can identify those and cultivate those, then that is good parenting. I'm not going to come and I'm not blaming my dad. He had a really good idea. But when I came to my dad and I wanted to go off to college, I had one thing in mind. I was going to be an interior decorator. I had art talents. I loved the arts, and that's what I was going to be. Oh, how many conversations we had about me going into business. I think he wanted me to be a secretary. What he really wanted is stability in my life. I think he saw this artist brain thing going on and thought, man, if I could only get her planted, get her rooted, and business college might do that. But it wasn't going to happen. That wasn't the gifts that I had, and that wasn't what I, in my heart and my spirit, wanted to cultivate. And so if we can look at our children as individuals and see, how did they arrive? What did they come with? Do they tinker with things? Are they, people that like to fix things? Are they people that like to nurture? What is it in them that I can not push or pull, but what can I just enjoy, identify, and allow them to grow and cultivate it if they love it? If they love it. And so, I don't know that a lot of that went on in my home. You have 10 kids, and that's a lot of responsibility. There's not a lot of individual time if they're that close together. And so a lot of my time was spent with my siblings, especially girls, because I had 6 sisters. So I am, going off to school, and I already have this I want more attitude. And that is not something all my siblings had. That is something that Cathy had, and it began to be a problem as soon as first grade. So I will tell you this story as quickly as I can. In my school, they had a candy store. It was, you're talking, 60s? So they had a candy store, penny candy, and you could, buy candy in the morning if you had a nickel or a dime or a quarter if you were lucky. So anyways, once in a while, my mom would throw a nickel in our lunchbox and we would be able to buy penny candy. Well, 5 pieces of penny candy, was not that great. And I had a girlfriend, and Peggy had quarters, and she would flip me a quarter here and there, but she had money for this candy store. And I was like, I want what Peggy has. And so I started to get it at home. I started to steal it from my older brothers. I started to steal it out of my father's dresser. And granted, I am 6 years old? I'm in first grade. I mean, I can remember being barely able to see and get into my father's dresser. But I got that money. I put it in a brown lunch bag, and I hid it in my closet in my bedroom. Now, granted, you have 10 kids, there's at least 3 people in a bedroom. So my older sister found it. I was barely enjoying my dollars at the candy store, and I would give them out to friends. I mean, I was a generous little first grader, and I was barely even into my addiction of sugar. And my sister busted me, and then she told my mom. And then when my mom interrogated me, I told her what I had been doing. And what my mom did was, I got a punishment in my home, and it was pretty harsh, but I also got this punishment at school. What she did is she went and she told my teacher exactly what I had done. A little bit of humiliation there, but it was probably appropriate for a 6-year-old. And she told my teacher what I had done, and she asked my teacher to keep a stern eye on me. And so I was never allowed to have anything that I wasn't supposed to have. If there was anything suspicious, then my mom needed to be notified. So this teacher was diligent. And if anything went missing in the first grade classroom, she would open my desk and look for it, because I was the thief of the classroom. I mean, 6-year-old little girl, thief of the classroom, So I couldn't understand it, because I was like, plain and simple, all I wanted was candy. So if an eraser goes missing, I don't know why you're looking at me. I don't give a rat's ass about erasers. So already in the beginning, I want more than my share of anything that is pleasing to me. And so it was attention, it was Christmas presents, it was birthday attention and gifts, it was attention from the teachers, it was clothes, it was toys, it was food, it was sugar. So already I have this, yearning for more. And again, I will say, it wasn't the same with all of my siblings. So I'm growing up, my home life is very, what do I want to say? It's strong, it's steady, I know what's coming. It is a good life, but I'm growing up in the 60s. So you're punishing your kids, you're spanking your kids. There was a lot of, like discipline going on in my house. My father was strict, my mother was strict. My mother was pretty much more the rule maker and the permission granter, and my father often worked 2 jobs when I was young because he was supporting a family of 12. So I was not fond of rules, and I had these different personalities already. I could speak one language, which had a lot of cussing in it, on the school bus, and I could get off the school bus and come into the home, and there was not a bad word that would come out of my mouth, unless, of course, I was with my siblings and my parents were gone, and then I was back to this other personality. So the ability to change like that is not a very good thing in a child as they're growing up. And I'm not like pointing the finger at anybody's kids and saying, look out for that one, they're going to be an alcoholic. But I am saying that there were things going on with me that instead of like handling my emotions, I would become a different person in different places to please different people. And, when I go back to handling emotions, there were some things in my childhood. And again, I am not picking. I had 4 children and 2 stepkids, and then my 2 daughters, my stepsons and daughters. 4 children, too much for me. The boys grew up and went out on their own. I had 2 more daughters, 4 children, a big job. So I can't imagine 10. I've never been able to imagine 10. And one of the things that I remember was if there was emotion going on, it was often stifled. And so if you got in trouble and you were crying, it was, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. It was, let's stifle this. Even stifling laughter sometimes, and stifling like relaxation. There was, if we were, outside trying to get some sun, you would either have to be mowing the lawn, weeding the garden, or something like that, because you just didn't relax. And, even to this day, I find it hard to watch people just relax. And I envy that because I grew up not feeling okay when I was relaxing, feeling like somebody was going to get me or I needed to be doing something else. So, these emotions, these feelings that were kind of like distorted in my childhood, I realized that I was really uncomfortable feeling normal emotions. Now, I watch my daughters, and each of my daughters has a child, and I watch their parenting, and it is so beautiful. It is so awesome. They teach their children to talk about things. They teach their children to feel and write out emotions, knowing they can get to the other side and they're going to survive. And I just watch the beauty of actually cultivating those children so that they can be as healthy and as happy in all of their strengths and talents as they were intended to be. And I can't take hardly any credit for that, other than the fact that, and this is probably a huge fact, other than the fact that I did get sober. So my daughters had a chance to not be bogged down with a ton, some for sure, but a ton of baggage that they had to try and get out from under before they could decide how they would parent, and the beauty of being able to watch them do it well when I know I didn't. I did it horrible, I did it a little bit better, and then I did it a little bit better. But, I never was so intentional and so invested as I see my daughters. I mean, I am today with my grown children, but at that time, that was not a part of my life. So if you're drinking, if you're in a household where drinking is taking over the household with its drama and its chaos and its dishonesty and its denial, then these are kind of some of the things that the child might be missing out on. You can try and do double duty, and you can try and make up all the difference, but they're still getting all these mixed signals. So one, it would be great if the person who is drinking could understand that you are hurting everybody around you. That is the biggest lie. I'm not hurting anyone but myself. You definitely are hurting yourself, but you are hurting everyone that is invested in your life, whether they're under your roof or whether you're ignoring them and they're under somebody else's roof. So if they are under your roof, those people need to, step back and get some help for themselves, because they are getting, kind of hit with these bullets from this unhealthy person, and they aren't even maybe aware of it. That, how do I feel about the fact that you didn't show up for my ball game? How do I feel about the fact that no kids in my class have ever seen my dad? How do I feel about the fact that my mom never goes on a field trip? There's just a lot of things I never thought about until I got sober and started to really participate in my children's lives. I could see little small differences, like my older kids, they always had every paper signed. If they needed a paper signed to go on a field trip or something, it was, Mom, here's the paper, here's the pencil. And you know what? That's because they couldn't count on me to do it. My younger kids got to the point where they were so enabled because I was doing everything for them that they couldn't get out of the house with everything. I can remember trying to take a lunch to my kindergartner, and they were like, this was long into sobriety. My youngest daughter, baby of the family, is somewhat a little bit spoiled. I'm taking her lunch, and at the office, they're like, get on out of here. She needs to learn. If she forgets her lunch, she doesn't have a lunch. And I'm like, oh my gosh, who does that to a child? And it's like, who does what? Enables them to be the person they're supposed to be, responsible, a little bit of discipline. I hate discipline. Able to take care of themselves and to count on themselves, depend on themselves, not for everything when they're 5, but where does it start? It has to start. And so I grew up in this family, and we did learn. We learned to work hard. We learned to be honest. I wasn't honest, but I had learned that I should be honest. We had values. We had principles. And everything, if you like anything about me, it came from my childhood. And I did have a lot of baggage, and that was because I was different than a lot of my siblings. Somebody could watch this and say, what house did she grow up in? And it's like everything is relative to the person that is experiencing it. Not that I would put down anybody, siblings, parents, none of it, but it's all relative. My experience affected me in a way that maybe it didn't, my brother or my sister. But that doesn't make it not mine, and that doesn't make it something I don't have to go through and figure out as I'm drinking alcoholically. And then I want to stop and say, what was that about? So anyways, it's a relative experience, and I had mine. And as I headed into, a private grade school, the only thing that I can say is I just never liked rules. I never was the person that I really wanted to be. I never was athletic. I always, when I talk about wanting more, I wanted more in all areas. Like if you were this person and I thought you were getting more attention than me, or you were more capable than me in this area, I wanted that. I never was really like, gosh, isn't it great that Cindy is really good at that? It was more like, I want to be Cindy. I want Cindy to not be good at that, and I want to steal that talent. It was a thing that started young, this inadequacy that I felt about myself, or this inability to look at all the gifts I had, because I really did have a lot of gifts. And instead I was looking at everybody else and saying, I got nothing. I think that everybody else has all this and I don't. So you take a child like that and send them off into high school, where everybody is definitely looking at you and what you got and what you don't. And that's not proper English, but I know that. And they're comparing, and it's a time where, you really are trying to come out on your own, and, yet everybody is sending you these signals of whether you're pretty, whether you are talented, whether you're popular, and it's just like, to me, it was like too much. So when I started to drink, which was, at that time, probably past my 8th grade year into my 9th grade year, I started to drink. And you know, a lot of people will say, when I started to drink, it just made everything right. It made me who I was meant to be. It gave me all this, you know, courage. I was a good dancer. I was good looking. I was all the, you know, what alcohol did for me is what alcohol really does for everybody. It lowered my inhibitions. It came into my bloodstream, it went to my brain, and it said, you got this, you got this. And if you don't think you do, drink another beer. Drink some more vodka. Drink some, you know, whatever. So that is what happened. And I misconceived that to be, I'm okay. I think I'm okay. When I drink, when I'm with those people, when I'm doing that thing, when I party on the weekend with the kids, you know, at somebody's house, parents aren't home, I'm okay. And what really was happening is I was putting a drug into my system, and the drug was telling me I was okay. That's why we love things that we can put in our system and they change how we feel. And some of those things are good. You can run 10 miles. I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I imagine that when you run, I've heard that it makes you feel really good. That's why people are running in the wintertime, right? It makes you feel good, the endorphins, the chemical changes that happen in our body. It happens when I eat sugar. It happened when I drank. It happens when people do drugs. It happens when you gamble. I mean, the first time that I bought a lottery ticket, I learned in one session, one group of tickets, I was high as a kite, thinking I was gonna win. When I lost, I was low as could be. And that was in a freaking grocery store. So I said, no lottery tickets for you, Cathy. It is another form of addiction for you, that you want to feel this way, and when you don't, you drop like a lead balloon. And that is never good for this alcoholic in recovery. So where am I at? I'm in high school, and I am drinking. And the thing is, I start to drink even in high school with different groups of people. So that is one thing that I did that I think was very apparent when I looked back on it, that even I couldn't recognize when my drinking went from not normal social drinking when you're in high school, but what a lot of kids were doing, to I think this is a problem. Because by the time I was in college, I was drinking at all times of the day with different people. And in college, you can do that. There's just like, it's all fun. Nobody's judging you. And if they are, you just stay away from those people. So by the time I'm in college, I've already gotten into a little trouble in high school. I've already, you know, raised some awareness with my friends' parents. And I go to college mainly just to get away from rules and any kind of lifestyle that has any control and discipline that it wants to push off on me. And so I go to college out of town, and it's a free-for-all. So my drinking, my having fun, my being the person to be around because she's fun, that is where it just went to another level. And I'm drinking with different people at different times of the day, because in a college campus, you can always find those people. And so it's very scary, really, when I look back on it, when I think about kids in college. I mean, I was, 19, 18? And I'm getting stuck in this addiction already because it's so available. I mean, I was able to change. I was an artist. I was able to change license so that everybody was legal. I think I charged people $1. And I was able to go to a grocery store and buy alcohol, go to a liquor store and buy alcohol long before I was legal. And it's like, I even know grown-ups that did it for me. I have never been that grown-up just because today, not because I'm all smart, self-righteous, and have all these values, but I know that person that is asking somebody to get them alcohol. I know of some of those people. And if you were like me, you were desperate to feel different than you felt at that moment. And if a grown-up could get you what you needed to feel different, then man, you could put that face on and ask them and make up a lie and get them to do it. And then you were on the other side of those emotions you didn't want to feel. So in order for this not to get too long, I'm going to stop at my college years before I meet my first husband, and then I'm going to take that up in the next session. This is just a little bit about my story so that maybe, you can understand just one example, because if you never are in any circles with recovering people, you never really get the story of what happens and why they might choose to put down a drink, and then what is necessary to happen afterwards, so they're not just this crazy bitch that doesn't drink. Okay? Because really, if you don't do any work on yourself and you put down that drink, there's a lot of people in your life that would say, could you go drink? Because we're not fun to live with when we're drinking. And if we aren't anesthetized, we're even less fun without tools to work on that person that struggles with life. So please subscribe, follow, come back, and if you're learning anything, if there is anything that you can share with another person, don't hesitate to do that, because we're trying to just raise awareness, break down a little bit of that wall of ignorance, and cut through some of the pain and get people into a solution. Thanks. I'm Cathy McLeish, and I'm doing this series on alcoholism for anybody that wants to raise awareness. Thanks.